Welcome to Changing the Perception of Blindness, one conversation at a time, where we aim to break down barriers, demystify blindness, and promote real and lasting change. Join host David Steinmetz as he connects us with professionals who are making a positive impact in the community. These leaders help empower individuals who are blind or have other disabilities to live a full and inclusive life. Let's lean in as David kicks off today's conversation.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Changing the Perception of Blindness, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, David Steinmetz. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Arizona Industries for the Blind, an enterprise nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering people who are blind to achieve their version of the American dream by creating and sustaining employment opportunities. AIB is our sponsor this year for our podcast, and I'm very appreciative of their support. Developed this show from various different reasons, personal and professional. I often find that as I'm out on the streets, waiting for public transportation, or even just in the grocery store, wherever I may be, people always stop to ask, or people are questioning my abilities, whether it's to live independently, work, travel, etc. And so I often find myself educating people, whether I want to or not, about blindness, about whether guide dogs or my family, etc. And I said, there's got to be bigger opportunity for me to reach out and get to the community and talk about how people who are blind are successful in the workplace, they're successful in life. And so I like to use this platform to do that and connect with other professionals throughout the U.S. on accessibility, independent living, work, employment, careers. And I'm really excited to have my special guest on today, Mr. Mike Hess. Mike is the Executive Director of Blind Institute of Technology, or also known as BIT, B-I-T. Mike has been featured in various different newspapers in Denver, Colorado, such as the Business Journal. He was honored with the 2017 Martin Luther King Jr. Business Award and the 2019 Global Executive Directors Inclusive Award. Mike is also a podcaster, a developer of basically like wayfinding technology, which is a navigation system that allows people who are blind and vision impaired to navigate inside buildings, basically in areas that most oftentimes are a challenge for people who are blind. We can use GPS to get to the building, but from the building to that office that you're going to is often a challenge. So, Mike, welcome to our show. Thanks for being here today and continuing my conversation about changing the perception.
Thank you so much, David, for having me. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what makes you guys special. What is it about your organization that you're doing in the community?
What do we do that's special? What's unique about us, David? Well, I'll backtrack a little bit and tell you why I started BIT, Blind Institute of Technology, first and foremost. So I spent 20 years in tech and in Fortune 5, Fortune 600 companies. Started out as a coder, a developer back in the early mid-90s with the very first technology bubble that was created globally was from an event called Y2K, or year 2000. For those of your listeners who have never heard of that, it's in history books. A lot of people thought that the technology of all sorts was going to crash at midnight when the millenniums changed from the 20th century to the 21st century. So if you could spell Y2K, David, and you had the ability to code any kind of programming language, you were kind of guaranteed a gig. And so I could do both. And so I started my career in technology back in the mid-90s. Was a programmer for a few years, then moved over to the network side of the house. So Cisco certified as well. So I speak tech, I speak nerd, and managed 7 and 8 figure projects over my career. Did pretty well. However, one thing was always very evident to me is that I was always the token blind person. in very large organizations. And quite honestly, with my cane, I don't ever remember bumping into anybody in a wheelchair. I'd never heard of anybody using ASL, American Sign Language, as their primary means of communication. And neurodiversity just wasn't talked about. Clearly, I worked around people who are neurodiverse. However, it just wasn't talked about. So as I was getting into my 40s, I started really asking that, like, it was really, really bothering me. Like, why am I the token? And I knew of all the, nationally, I knew of all of what I call the Bs, right? So National Federation of the Blind, American Foundation for the Blind, American Council for the Blind, National Industries for the Blind. I knew of all the Bs, right? The national organizations, doing something in and around, blindness. And I researched all of them, and they do varying degrees of goodness for the blind and visually impaired community, the BVI community. But I couldn't find any of them that were what I called, taking the business case directly to the Fortune 10,000. So the 10,000 largest publicly traded companies in the world, where literally, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of jobs are created every single year. So I, foolish, courageous, somewhere in between, I left my six-figure income. And I don't say that from a braggadocious perspective, David. I say that from I wasn't just the token blind person that they kept on as a quota. I was killing it. I was doing a good job in corporate America. So managing very large projects, they were on time, on budget, all those kind of, the key factors, what's called KPIs, key performance indicators for, projects and organizations. I was meeting all those, doing a really good job. But I could not find, since I was that token, and I was really wanting to create an organization that was focused on, bringing employment to the Fortune 10,000 from the blind and visually impaired community. And so, foolish or courageous, somewhere in between, I left my six-figure income to start BIT, Blind Institute of Technology. But this will give you kind of a inside lens of what kind of a tech head I am, what kind of a nerd I really am. Where did I come up with BIT, Blind Institute of Technology? So again, in technology, there's, bits and bytes. So a bit is binary, 0 and a 1. It's machine language. So I made an acronym out of a bit called Blind Institute of Technology. So that's my claim to marketing fame. But I truly believe technology, David, is the great equalizer, the greatest equalizer for all of humanity, from the Wright brothers to the pencil, always helping humanity overcome its obstacles. And within the digital age, without accessible technology, our ability, the blind, visually impaired community's ability to have a quality of life, let alone our ability to earn our own nickel, is nil. It's practically, it's not there. And so assistive technology, accessible digital user interfaces is exactly how you and I are able to do, anything that we want to do. So that's how, BIT came around. Our delineator amongst, again, all these other organizations that are doing varying degrees of goodness is that our whole and sole focus is getting folks from the BVI community gainfully employed. And so our business model is truly what delineates us from all other organizations that deal with the blind and visually impaired community, because our business model, we act as a nonprofit staffing agency. So small brands such as Salesforce, JP Morgan Chase, CVS, Allstate, Anthem, Prudential, they pay us to find them talent from the blind, visually impaired community and the broader professionals with disabilities community to support their diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring initiatives specifically for people with disabilities. So long answer to your question about like what is BIT all about? So a little bit about my background, how I got here, and how BIT delineates itself.
Yeah, amazing story, amazing journey. Really kind of steers around the concept of my show, right? You're talking about being the token blind person in an organization. Blindness is typically a very low prevalence in the community. Oftentimes, employers have not had an experience, or even family members or people in the community have those opportunities to engage with someone who is blind, visually impaired. And throughout your 20 years for just a minute or two you've been in the tech industry, to find that you didn't have other people that shared the same experience you did. Why do you feel that there's not more people who are blind in that industry or employed, right? We talk about a 70% unemployment rate among people with disabilities, people who are blind, vision impaired. We're working really hard through all those other organizations, right? National Industry for Blind, Arizona Industries for the Blind, things that we do, providing outsourced services, etc., to make a dent in that 70%. But in the corporate world, we find that there's a big challenge. And what would you say, maybe, Mike, are some of those barriers to getting people who are blind into the Fortune 500, Fortune 10,000?
Great question, David. And honestly, it's so again, my humble opinion, our organizational approach to solving for this. It's interesting because again, I've when I left corporate to start BIT, like one thing I didn't realize I was getting myself into was the world of sales. And at the end of the day, like I'm selling blind, visually impaired professionals. I'm selling professionals with disabilities, like to corporate America. And here are some statistics for you and your audience. So within the Fortune 10,000, 86% of organizations have some sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion type initiatives. Okay. The four main initiatives for their organizations, the four main pillars are generally, and again, these are all very, very important. Realize like culture and corporate America have a long ways to go from an equity perspective. So all of these programs are very, very important. But again, the four main pillars are ethnicity, gender, LGBTQIA+, and veteran. Those are the four main pillars of diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives in the Fortune 10,000. And that's 86%, right? So 8,600. Now, out of the 86% of Fortune 10,000 companies that have some sort of DE&I initiative, only 4% have an initiative that includes people with disabilities. So it's not even 4,000 companies, right? So it's only 4% of the 86% that have an initiative that includes people with disabilities. So just within the Fortune 10,000, like you have this smaller pool of true recruiting and retaining opportunity within a community that even amongst, disability oriented organizations, that do, focus on other forms of disability, whether it's, folks on the spectrum, Autism Speaks or whatever organization within the neurodiversity kind of space, or organizations that deal with, deaf or hard of hearing. Like many times the blind community is omitted from even other disability oriented initiatives. And I truly believe, so again, like I believe that because of a very legal, nebulous term, like us as a marginalized community, we're the only marginalized community that has to, like, we have to prove ourselves innocent because of a very legal, nebulous term called reasonable accommodation. So we're the only marginalized community that has to overcome that legal hurdle. We're the only ones. Okay. And so quite honestly, and individuals, well-meaning professionals that are in generally HR positions that are there to be like, oh, is this a reasonable accommodation or not? They don't know anything about reasonable accommodations. And they certainly don't know anything about whether or not user interfaces can be made to be accessible to screen reader users or Braille display users, which obviously is our reasonable accommodation. So these very well-meaning HR professionals who, again, they know HR and they've read an article or two on ADA. They know nothing about assistive technology. They know nothing about WCAG. They know nothing about making an interface accessible so us as blind, visually impaired screen reader users can be successful. So
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize that fact. 4% of the 86% do have a focus on disabilities as being part of their DEI programs. That's really incredible, and that certainly is a giant barrier if you don't have people looking into the community, right?
Yeah, like it's so when you ask the question, like why aren't there more folks in corporate America? So kind of the cards are stacked against us. Right. And that's why BIT. So BIT, again, our sole and only focus. Everything that you see on us, like, it's all about employment. Everything that we do. So our workforce development initiative, our BIT Academy, everything that we do is about leveling folks up or about taking their current skills and getting people placed. So our job at BIT is to kick in doors. We find organizations, small, medium, and large. So it doesn't matter if it's SMB, small, medium community, or the enterprise, organizations, the true Fortune, 500 companies, right, that everybody knows the brand names about. Like, it doesn't matter the size of the organization. BIT is out there, again, my job, I'm 3 straight weeks of traveling all over the country, shaking hands, kissing babies. I'm a traveling sales guy, and I'm out there, meeting with executives of organizations all over the country and introducing the amazing talent pool, which happens to be professionals with disabilities.
From my perspective and looking at over my career, from working for a small business and identifying that I have a visual impairment, and in that moment, I went from an asset to a liability. And because this person didn't know what to do with me, how to support me, or let alone even care. And over my 30 plus years of vision loss, I've found that to be true with a lot of employers and so forth. And, as I've had to learn the core, blindness skills, orientation, mobility, technology, independent living, how to being prepared, and really how to overcome a lot of challenges. You talked about accessibility of applications or software and finding workarounds and so forth. You've been very successful in your professional career. How do you feel that those blindness skills have helped you get to where you are today as being, exec director, going out and shaking hands and kissing babies with corporate America?
I believe, of course, blindness skills are essential, right? So I believe, again, one of the unfortunate circumstances for the blind, visually impaired community specifically, because I have some experience, I've lived it. The bar has been set so low from state agencies, from school districts, from again, vocational rehabilitation organizations, from nonprofits who support the blind, visually impaired community. I personally believe, again, this is my experience, mine. Okay, so I'm not bashing anybody else. I'm not speaking for anybody else. This is my opinion. The thoughts and opinions you hear on the show are solely mine. So again, all my experience, like you have no idea how many times I was told in school, like this elementary, junior high, high school, the government's going to take care of you. I know I'm not the only blind person who's ever heard that language before. So you get this like we all have heard the term systemic racism. Right. There's the actual legislation that is built in, whether it's red line districts or whatnot, like there's legislation that's created for, to omit and discriminate against, BIPOC community members. And the only thing I can think of from what I've experienced is there's also this systemic mediocrity that is put in place for, again, I'm speaking specifically for the blind, visually impaired. I believe it is for the broader disability community, but I'm going to speak my experience within the blind, visually impaired community, where again, the mediocrity, hey, it's okay just to go this far. Don't worry, your SSDI, your Social Security Disability Insurance check is going to be there's all this, these really low mediocre expectations for our community. And so we as a community have to be willing to just say, or individuals within the community have to be willing to say, screw you. I deserve a true slice of the American dream. And you're not going to do that if you still qualify for SSDI. Yep. So again, for me, and the only way you can do this as a blind, visually impaired person, you have to start with your blindness skills. The onus is on us. And I believe it doesn't matter if you go into technology or not. So our reasonable accommodation, 100%. I don't care if you're going into social work. I don't care if you're going into teaching. I don't care if you're going into being a yoga instructor. I don't care what job you're going to go into as a blind, visually impaired person. You must be competent with your assistive technology skills, period. Be comfortable with more than one screen reader. Master the screen readers. Master them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a coder, but reasonable accommodations start with us being able to advocate and understanding how user interfaces are easily made accessible to screen reader users. And so for me, like your question of like, how important it is important and it's essential. And unfortunately, systemically, there's not enough emphasis placed on there. Schools for the blind, like no, if they're graduating from schools for the blind and they are only comfortable with one screen reader, the institution failed.
Sure.
Like I am really hardcore on this, David.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely hear your passion, and I think one of the things you mentioned in that conversation is advocate for yourself, right? And I'm sure you didn't get to where you were by just sitting back and saying, "Okay, I'm just going to code because that's what I can do," right? You have the passion, you have the drive and the desire, right? And you've had life experience of, okay, for me to accomplish this, instead of getting in the car and driving down the street, I'm going to plan out my day. I'm going to find an alternative mode of transportation to get where it is I need to do. And even in terms of developing, right, the application for navigation, right, for inside buildings and such, is solving a problem and working towards improving the processes to ensure that you're going to get what you need, and you're going to be successful. You're going to bring the project in on time. That doesn't come just because you can get, you have good cane and orientation mobility skills, although those are important. It comes from something within you as well, I imagine, right? It's not, as you said, just letting society, culture, employers, organizations dictate what it is that you can or can't do.
It's so I was just at a conference with 40. So in the historic campus of Georgetown in Washington, D.C. for the last 4 days. And I didn't realize that. So the campus was started in 1789. Like, it's amazing. Like, I knew it was like an older university. I had no idea. My sighted colleagues were telling me that there's, buildings that literally look like castles and such, right? And some of the cherry blossoms were just peeking out, and I had never smelled a cherry blossom. So they guided me up to, smell all that. But I had a fellow sister nonprofit leader that was there up in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. She had asked me because she saw me, we were basically in class for 3 days, learning about, again, how to be a more effective nonprofit, So cool program. Comcast was, they sponsored me within BIT to go there. And there were other amazing nonprofits that were sponsored by other amazing organizations and that sort of thing. So it was a really cool event. But this one nonprofit leader had said to me, she goes, Mike, how did you learn how to advocate for yourself so well? Because there were a lot of presentations. I was a token blind person in this room, right? I've never been to the campus before. And I travel independently all the time. Like, I find myself, I say I love to find myself getting lost, and I love to find myself getting out of it. And generally, it's with not only good O&M skills, but it's also a very important skill of how not to be a jackass. And it's really important for us as blind, visually impaired. Like, it's great to be independent. It's great to be autonomous. It's great to be all of those things. But at the end of the world, if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, can I help you?" It's quite all right. This does not make you any less of a person. As a matter of fact, it makes you kind of own your schedule a bit more. So, because again, when you're at big airports, Ronald Reagan, or big campuses like Georgetown, there's so much that we don't see, right? Like,
right.
And just to get a little guidance, a little what I call angel. Like, an angel comes up and like it is perfectly okay to just say, because one thing I value more than anything, and that's the 86,400 seconds in a day. My time is just as important as anybody else's. And to be so stubborn to think that our O&M skills, no, I'm going to get there all by myself, doggone it. Don't you dare want to help me. Like at the end of the day, like, how much do you value your time? Because and so advocating for ourselves includes the skill of being somebody who is willing to find an angel, make a short time friend, and get to where you need to go. But while I'm in this presentation, of course, there's a lot of visual stuff. Yes, I got presentations ahead of time and that sort of thing, but we had speakers literally carouseling in and out. There were a lot of visual things that were going on, and it's okay. It is perfectly okay and perfectly professional. So, like, there was an individual that was talking about these 4 key concepts. However, how they were describing because I asked them, they were all getting the memo, like they have to describe the pictures and whatnot. And she was saying like there's a Venn diagram, and there's a circle on the left and a circle on the right, and it creates an overlap within the middle, which clearly tells me that there's 3 unique pictures on the screen. But she said there were 4 unique concepts. Right. And so I stopped her and I'm like, wait. I was like, I'm not visualizing, like, you said there's 4, but yet the pictures. And she's like, oh, I see what you're saying. She goes, oh, well, there's actually two of the concepts are on each side of the Venn diagram. And I was like, oh, okay, I got you. Like, so, but again, so I do this in real time, and I do it all the time. I'm perfectly comfortable. Again, in a very like this world, no matter how much accessibility is adopted or not adopted, this world is it's a sighted world. Okay, and for us, like, we have to be okay with just again, professionally, don't be a jackass about it. Just ask, like, hey, help me understand. Like, what I'm picturing is X, right? And people will be amazed, right? So first of all, like, again, learning how to advocate for ourselves. Being a whiz on our assistive technology, but be an ally, right? Like, you hear this in diversity, equity, and inclusion within ethnic and LGBT, right? But you hear this all the time, like creating allies. We in the disability community are horrible at this. And I say that because, again, look at all the silos that there are within the disability community. And they don't work with one another. They don't talk to one another. It's ridiculous. We create our own silos. And at the end of the day, like, I think it's a huge contributor. The reason why the unemployment numbers are so high, it's because of our own community leaders.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept in terms of really understanding. First and foremost, I'm going to back up a second and say how important it is. Everybody needs help or assistance in some form or fashion, right? We don't all get through the world perfectly, whether it's stopping and asking for stopping and asking for directions, to not having the same talents or skills as somebody else and utilizing their strengths. And so it's important. I think you're right in terms of the blindness community, and as well as the non-disabled community is understanding that we all need a little bit of help in some form or fashion, and asking for that help isn't a bad thing. Oftentimes, like, I do hear the same thing is, don't ask. I don't need any help. I'm going to go through the world, with my head down, trudging through, and you can live your life that way. That's what makes you happy. But I think it's harder than it is to accept than to say, you know what, yeah, point me in the right direction, or, give me and literally point me, but, tell me it's left of that pillar or 20 steps down, whatever it is saying thank you for that, because we all need that. I think a little bit of support. And
well, it's called allyship, right, David?
Right,
like,
yeah.
I mean, we hear about this in all sorts of other inclusion-oriented organizations, and yet systemically, right? Like, we're taught, like, no, like, you need to do this on your own, like, you need to blah blah blah. I think it's horrible messaging, and the reason why, again, like, we as a community, it's because the organizations who are supporting us, like, almost like they've unintentionally, kept us in these silos. And for us to solve for this unemployment epidemic, and that's exactly what it is, like, we have to start working together. We have to start realizing, like, digital accessibility is our reasonable accommodation. Every organization that supports the blind, visually impaired community need to start teaching every blind, visually impaired person the fundamentals of all of this. And then we need to start realizing, like, creating allies, like, together, right, as a community, as a whole community. Because, again, the one topic I believe that is completely nonpartisan, is workforce development. It's employment.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if you're left or right or what blindness organization you are. Like if we're all talking about this together and come up with a unified front, that's how we address the 70% unemployment or underemployment.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. And sitting here thinking how fragmented the blindness community is, right? Whether
It's horrible.
Yeah, and we all say we have the same common goal, which is to get people employed or to live independently or to have equal access. We don't all agree on how to get there.
And they're all fighting for the same voc rehab dollars or fighting for like, it just, it's ridiculous how many organizations, well, like, I don't want to collaborate with you because voc rehab has X amount of dollars for, it's ridiculous. And so that's, again, what delineates BIT. I'm not chasing those voc rehab dollars. Getting voc rehab dollars is a pain in the ass. I don't want those dollars. I go directly to corporate America, which values talent. Our business model is performative. We're focused on talent, right? While other blindness organizations are just focused on voc rehab dollars, right? So they get paid no matter who gets a job. We get paid when we get somebody a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Big difference. And so your clients or students through BIT, right? You've been able to place people throughout the U.S. and in corporate America. What is it, the skills that you're finding, is it that you're providing to those clients to get them placed in corporate America?
Well, so some folks come to us with, kind of already, college and education and skills in hand, and it's been all over the map, clearly like a lot of tech folks within, being a developer, different frameworks, doesn't matter. So different kind of coders. A lot of assistive tech, accessibility, like architect and accessibility engineer type individuals, skill sets, that sort of thing. But also, business analysts and project managers and data analysts and, HR and folks who support sales. And we've done a very small amount of customer service because, again, some folks that's where they're happiest at, but it also drives me nuts within the blindness community. Just you're helping people with blindness, like, so clearly you're doing customer service, and that kind of stuff pisses me off. Again, I was a 6-figure engineer, and like, no, we have skills, like, so don't tell me like this is all I can do just because I'm blind. But our workforce development initiative. So we were the first organization in the country to put 7 blind people through the Salesforce admin certification. So I chose Salesforce as our workforce development initiative for leveling folks up. And this is for folks who come to us with some skills, but they don't necessarily have, the in-demand, corporate environment. And I chose Salesforce for a couple of primary reasons. One is Salesforce is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It is also the most digitally accessible platform on the planet, period. For screen reader users, it's absolutely amazing. So we're able to take folks who don't use JAWS because our program is very global. So we have individuals who do not get state or national dollars for screen readers that can only use NVDA. And so using just NVDA in the same Salesforce platform that's available to everybody, we're able to get people through the education because their educational stuff is completely accessible, through certification because that is completely accessible, and into jobs, which are completely accessible. So they are the most accessible platform on the planet. That's why I chose Salesforce. But our workforce development, so we are the the global training provider for Salesforce for people with disabilities. Like, we're the official organization doing that, which is super cool. In 2021, our program actually became the first national apprenticeship program that serves people with disabilities, including the blind, visually impaired, that the country's ever seen. So no other organization before or since has become a national apprenticeship shop for the blind and visually impaired community. And so our training meets the standards of the Department of Labor at a national level. So we level folks up. We get them certified. We put them into roles, which begins their apprenticeship. 100% of the individuals that we get certified, David, they also become employed. So our training is national, of course, here in the United States. And again, we're not chasing voc rehab dollars. We're not chasing any of that. So if any of your listeners are interested, at the end of the program, I'll let them know how they can get a hold of us.
Sure. Thank you. And first of all, congratulations on your certification and accreditation and focusing on putting and helping people get careers in trending upward sustainable organizations and careers, industries. And that's fantastic. Obviously, with your passion and out there pounding the pavement, working with corporate America to create that pipeline and channel for your graduates from the program to find successful employment. Just
thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of hard work, but I am surrounded by an amazing team. 90% plus of us are part of the blind visually impaired community. So that's what's kind of fun about what we do is that, like it says on our website, we are an organization that's, by professionals with disabilities for people with disabilities. So it's a very civic, by for of the people kind of endeavor.
Yeah, fantastic. For me, my career has really empowered me to live independently, to support my family, support myself, and also empowers me to get out into the community. I'm going to DC in May and, meeting with the delegation from Arizona while I'm there. And to me, without having the confidence and having the skill, the things that led up to where I am today, right? The experiences and the opportunities to work all reinforces that empowerment, and it helps me get to where it is that I want to be and, continue to strive to do more. It sounds like BIT kind of creates that pathway for people who are blind across the U.S. as well, right?
I believe so. I always call it the BIT family. So the BIT family, like we, and we put the fun in dysfunction, like a lot of families do, David, but we are, blindness can be isolating, right? Like I talk to individuals who are newly blind or still struggling with their blindness all over the country, all over the globe. And I let people know all the time, like blindness is a very physical thing. Like it is, right? Like we physically cannot do X, Y, or Z, right? But it is a mental, emotional, spiritual journey. Right. And the more we can, come out of our silos again, and realize like there are some things that, from a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like employment, being able to put your own food on the table, being able to take your family on vacations, like, there are some fundamentals that are just, essential to our own happiness, and having a career is part of that. And so for me, the one thing that binds, the BIT family amongst everything is just that. And just realizing, because again, big struggle is getting that friendly place, getting the yes, we want you. But another thing is then, okay, so once you're in that organization, like there's still a lot of challenges and obstacles within those environments. Right. And so keeping that family, that BIT family, we're realizing like, oh man, who's dealt with this system? Are there any workarounds? Because in corporate America, there are a lot of softwares,
right? So
many softwares, right? And so keeping that family together, keeping that communication, that connection, all that sort of thing, I think is essential, right? To, how do we go past, well, we have, we have a token blind person. All of a sudden we have, 2, 3, 5, 10, so start actually getting representation within these organizations, because at the end of the day, representation matters.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So besides the Salesforce training that you provide, are there other programs that you guys offer to your clients and to corporate America?
Yeah, we've been doing digital accessibility, like, I don't know, you just throw a rock in any tier 1, tier 2 city in the country, and you're going to hit 14 different, there are all these, like blind people with an iPhone, like, oh, I can totally do accessibility testing. BIT was doing it for a long time. We've been in the game for a decade now. So, and since I speak tech, I speak, engineering. We started doing that work for a long time. So we have a lot of nice relationships with organizations out there. But again, it's back to the BIT Academy, leveling folks up. So meeting a lot of, blind visually impaired people specifically who, again, have done a whole host, right? Because anybody who can use a screen reader gets asked, hey, can you test my website? You get a lot of people who actually have done some formal or informal testing, but don't actually have the industry recognized credentials that are needed to really propel your career. And so we have a pilot program going on right now, which is our digital accessibility analyst course, which teaches individuals, and our classes are always synchronous and asynchronous. So you meet with an instructor. So we have the only instructor-led digital accessibility analyst course going on in the country right now that helps individuals go, from, let's say, experience to actual IAAP certified. And so that's a course that we have going on right now. It's our pilot. Our pilot is, we had 22 individuals from 5 different countries across the globe, which is super cool.
Yeah.
All heading towards, of course, getting IAAP certified. So we're going to continue to, we have 3 different Salesforce certifications that we do offer, but you have to always start with the Salesforce Administrator certification. So that's the one you really have to start with. And then we also have a pilot for the Google Project Manager, which is through Coursera, getting folks the what's called the CAP-M certification, Certified Associate Project Manager certification. So those are the different courses that we offer. And then, of course, we have workshops that we also deliver for our candidates that help with very essential skills, such as, we call it the Tell Me About Yourself, because one of the 3 most asked questions in every interview is a simple question called Tell Me About Yourself. And everybody thinks like, I can totally kill that question until it's been asked of you. And then you go on a 5 or 10 minute rant, talking about yourself. And you don't realize that, quite honestly, you've shot yourself in the foot if you do not practice that question. And so we help individuals, master the techniques in and around some of those skills, because we're going to get you an interview. But once you get that interview, it's up to you now, right? Like you can lead a horse to water, right? And so our job is to, once you get to the water, we also want you to feel super comfortable taking a drink from that fountain. So our workshops are all meant on, again, aiding that process. But everything that we do is in and around employment.
Awesome. I'm going to kind of go off script and ask you a question, Mike. So you have these great programs. You're working to create pathways for individuals who are blind in corporate America. Yet we still have this 70% unemployment. So we know that it's on the employer side. There's barriers. But I often find when we're looking for people who are blind to enter into the workforce, that people that just don't want to work or aren't ready, or I don't know what it is. Do you find a challenge in recruiting candidates for your program? You're working not only from providing the training aspect of the actual, whether it's Salesforce or the other certification programs, but building people up to re-enter into the workforce?
It's a great question. We do not have, we had 70 students start globally in our program in January. We have another 50 or 60 that are waiting for our next Salesforce class. So we do not. I know that, especially within a lot of the NIB affiliates, they're having trouble recruiting, that sort of thing. My opinion is that so to me, it's one thing to offer, manufacturing and those sort of task-oriented opportunities. And again, it's great that there's something, but what are the true career paths outside of the manufacturing? So NIB needs to, so they need to get with the times, right? And they need to be able to offer true career pathways for the blind visually impaired. You're going to have a whole easier time on recruiting if you do that. But so from the other one is how do we build up individuals? So BIT is also working very closely with the Schools for the Blind on a national level, actually bringing our training directly to young people, because it is that demographic. It's the young people that will change the narrative for the blind and visually impaired epidemic that is out there for unemployment. So it is the young people that are going to change that narrative for us. So BIT is going directly to those organizations with all of our programs. And part of this, again, is breaking down some of this systemic mediocrity in and around this. So young people need to hear from professionals like us, David, and your listeners. The young people need to hear from us that it is absolutely possible to not only survive blindness, but to thrive. Okay. And it is so possible for them to expect to have a career, to expect to make $100,000 a year, to expect to be a decision maker at a table in an organization. They should expect that. But it's up to us as old salty dogs to help empower young people to realize that they can absolutely do that.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about the importance of having a job, right? But a job is not just the job. I think it's important to have opportunities and pathways, right? Whether, I started out doing customer service, data entry, things like that. And as opportunities came available to me, I took advantage of those opportunities to grow my career because I wanted more. Whether it's in the blindness community or within the general population, where we have people sweeping the floors to leadership roles, and et cetera. So there's nothing wrong with having a manufacturing job if that brings you pleasure and that satisfies your needs, and you're not looking for more. That should be okay. If you want more from your own life, you should have those opportunities. And can you take the step from a machine operator to a CNC programmer to a materials planner and find those upward mobility opportunities? It's going to come from within you. It's going to come from your employer who values the contributions that you're bringing to the organization, your talents, your skills, your problem solving, etc., not just the blindness that you bring. So I think looking for those individuals who have the drive to, as you put it, to thrive, right, is giving them the opportunity and let them create their pathway, and you help them along that path. And I see that the NIB program, Ability One, and my organization does the same thing. That you can come in to an organization, get work experience, gain the opportunities that you haven't worked in 10 years because you've been adjusting to blindness or you've never worked before. You should be able to make a career out of the things that you want to do and not let anybody else put you into a position or into a box that says this is what you can do or only what you can do. So,
love it.
Yeah. So we're coming up to the end of the show here. Mike, I'd love for you to be able to tell our audience, our listeners here today, how do they best get a hold of you and learn more about Blind Institute of Technology?
Oh, simply a carrier pigeon. That's it, David. Just kidding. It's how it's all done these days, ladies and gentlemen. It's or whatever your pronouns may be. blindit.org. Blind as an unable to see. blindit.org. You go out there, and if you want to get started with us, our website is completely tricked out for accessibility. We got light mode, dark mode, able to adjust the font size. Of course, it's screen reader capable. So, reach out to us. We'd love to talk. And thank you for your time and being on this podcast today, David. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Mike. I appreciate you. I appreciate your insights, the things you're doing to make a dent in the unemployment, to give people opportunities. And that's what really this show is about, is bringing a bigger awareness, the abilities, people who are blind or vision impaired or have other disabilities. It reinforces my philosophy that with the right training, the right technology, and the right attitude, people who are blind are successful in the workplace every time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Changing the Perception of Blindness, one conversation at a time, with your host, David Steinmetz. Be sure to subscribe to Changing the Perception of Blindness, one conversation at a time, on your favorite podcast platform, and tune in live on Phoenix Business RadioX every third Friday at 9 a.m. We hope you feel inspired by today's conversation, and maybe we've even sparked a new idea or opportunity.